Assalamualaikum students. Yeah, welcome back to the strategy series of entrepreneurship. In our last lecture, we started by discussing the various forms of capital. Initially, we were of the view that capital means financial capital, that being that how much money one has got or how much money one has invested in any particular business. But then we also realized that in today's world, it's not just the financial capital that can get you through. There are a few more dimensions to it. The first one was human capital. And what did we mean by human capital? Employees should be real resource rather than just having warm bodies doing their 9-to-5 job. They should be having loyalty with the organization. They should be having this passion to work with you for the objectives of fulfillment of the mission of the company. The more creative they are, the more innovative they are, the more out-of-box thinking they have got, the more they can contribute towards the advancement of that particular organization, right? In a typical organization, you'll commonly see individuals usually outsourcing the thinking part that this is the responsibility of the either owner or the management, and they won't bother taking any initiative or ownership. But in case of organizations where humans are considered as capital, they are actually valued, and that itself increases their motivation and loyalty with the organization. We took example of Toyota, and in one interview their manager had said that yeah, the plant can be copied, all the machinery can be replicated, but the human resource that we have got, that we have trained over years, cannot be easily replicated. The other dimension to capital was structural capital. And what did we mean by that? Intellectual property. If you have got some, even if you are not into R&D, you could have trademarks registered in your name. That would be what? What are the trademarks? These are the symbols and signs that are used to sell your products, to differentiate them from the competitor's product. And you do it formally in which organization? Intellectual Property Organization of Pakistan, that is the caretaker of intellectual property rights in Pakistan. And it would also take care of your patent applications, copyrights, as well as trademarks. And the structural capital is not just property Organization of Pakistan, IPOP. And it is not merely the intellectual property. It could be something that the knowledge that you have gained over time and the experience that a company has. Now, in tackling the journal issues, there is a firm that has got managers who have been taking care of those things for past 10 years. Compared to a new startup, the experience they have got can help them a lot to tackle the things easily, right? Then the third dimension was customer. And why would we consider customer as capital? Sorry?
They're the ones that bring you money.
That bring us money, but rather than the profitability bit, our take on this dimension was that the more customers that you have, the stronger your customer base, the loyalty that they have with your brand. I mean, if your customers are ready to skip 5-10 shops or 5-10 other products just searching for your product, that's a huge thing. This means that you have satisfied them to a level whereby they are ready to sacrifice their time, money, and other resources. Now that is the kind of customer that you would consider as your capital. It's the positive reputation as well that the company enjoys with the customers. Then we moved on, tried to define strategy, right? That was a game plan which a company makes in order to achieve its vision, mission, goals and objectives, right? And then a very interesting topic was competitive advantage. And what was that?
So you have something which makes you unique.
What is that thing? There is a very specific,
Code
because the definition that you are coming up with, it will actually mix the two concepts of competitive advantage and core competency. Competitive advantage is the aggregate of the factors that set the company apart from its competition. And we took example of Blockbuster to understand, whereby they were able to strike a good deal whereby the same suppliers that were supplying the videotapes to other competitors for 66 pounds, Blockbuster was able to get those tapes for $6 only. And the interesting bit was that Blockbuster had offered the suppliers of those tapes a continuous revenue stream through their rental income as well. That was the major catch that took the attention of the suppliers. Then we talk about core competencies that were unique set of capabilities that a firm develops over time, and these capabilities help the firms vault past its customer. Example ji, Netflix, and could you highlight what kind of core competencies it had developed?
So it had Blockbusters had to pay rental fees, and they had to hire the employers.
Okay, I'll stop you there. So Blockbuster was basically a traditional movie renting shop. The only advantage that they had was the low cost that they were enjoying. But then Netflix comes in and it changes the model altogether. Rather than going for the retail outlets, what did they do? It had postal service, and it actually established 58 warehouses strategically located to give the most efficient coverage to the whole United States of America. And they started this postal rental service. Apart from that, the best part about another core capability was the coding that they had done in order to regulate that whole process. Complemented with another thing, Ji, the viewers' reviews, whereby the viewers could see the feedback of other customers who had already watched those videos, right? And they also abolished late rental fee. There was no late fee that was usually charged by Blockbuster and the likes of Blockbuster. So by development of these capabilities, it was able to challenge Blockbuster that considered itself to be well established because of the competitive advantage. So one thing should be very clear, that yes, even if you have some competitive advantage, you cannot take it for granted for the rest of your life. The competition is definitely going to challenge you. If not today, tomorrow, if not tomorrow, the day after. You have to be prepared. You cannot take things for granted. Right. Then we also try to understand the interplay of these concepts. We saw that with help or mixing of structural capital, that is the knowledge gained over time, plus the human capital, that would be the skills and the capabilities of employees, when they mix together, when they work together, gel together in the right proportion, they help us create core competencies, which are then translated into competitive advantage, through which companies try to give superior customer service. Then we went through the various steps of the strategy and tried to understand what vision and mission statement is. With vision, we actually discussed that vision is more like a dream, that if the company is successful, what impact it would have on the society at large that it serves in, and what kind of services it is going to focus upon. Meanwhile, mission statement is more specific, and it is time bound and usually covers a shorter span of time. The next step was going for the internal mapping of strengths and weaknesses. With strengths, that being the SWOT analysis. The first bit is SW, Strengths being the internal positive points and weaknesses being the internal negative points. And we actually try to understand various dimensions of it. Now, we'll today continue by looking into opportunities and threats. That would be the external mapping of the environment of the company. So opportunities would be the positive external factors that company can exploit or utilize to accomplish its mission, goals and objectives, whereas the threats are going to be the negative external factors that inhibit the firm's ability to accomplish its mission, goals and objectives. So just few examples. With regards to opportunities, the organizations could utilize existing skills or technological know-how to enter new product lines or new businesses. An example Z, whereby the company had used its current status to introduce its new product lines or new businesses. Crispo by Sabre. Sabre was a traditional pulao company, and now it is also doing fast food with the brand of Crispo with K. Right, so they had this whole setup, and all they had to do was to add another production line and a retail outlet, and yes, they are already exploiting that. So when the people go there, there are few customers that do not go there for pulao. They rather would like to have something else. So they are now covering a wider range of needs of the customers. Falling trade barriers in attractive foreign markets. Right? What are trade barriers? Any recent example?
Sir, tax,
Yeah,
petrol prices,
duties usually.
petrol prices.
How about India imposing 200% duty on the products that are being imported from Pakistan right after this Pulwama aftermath? Now that is the example of not falling trading barrier, rather a rising trading barrier. Have you ever heard of a term called NAFTA?
Yes, sir.
What is NAFTA? North American Free Trade Agreement. That has actually enabled Canada, United States and Mexico to do trading at a much easier level as compared to the traditional mechanism. ASEAN,
Yes, sir. Asian. Yes, sir.
SARC. SARC was established again with the same objective, that the member countries would ultimately abolish their trade duties and let the local trade happen. But unfortunately, now there are two heavyweights in SARC, one being India and the other being Pakistan, and it's for that reason it hasn't worked out very well. And the best example that I had experience of as well, European Union, EU. I got opportunity to travel by road in 5 or 6 countries. You won't even know when you have crossed one country and entered to another. That's how free the movement is there. So if a traveler can roam around so freely, imagine the ease that business people would be having there. So let's say if there is a manufacturer who is good at manufacturing shoes in Italy, for him, all he needs to do is pack up his products, put them into a container and load it on way to Portugal.
Sir,
He will have, जी,
sir, यूएस और यूरोप का भी तो इस तरह है ना, trading barrier नहीं है.
I have no clue. I have no clue.
Because people go to Hajj by road.
That is more like Kartarpur, isn't it? It doesn't mean that our trade barriers has fallen. I mean, the travel arrangements are altogether different. I was actually coming, I just started with that argument, ultimately I'm going to come to the trade. I was saying that if there is an Italian manufacturer of shoes, for him, selling his shoes in Germany, Austria, Spain, France, United Kingdom is as easy as selling them in Italy. The only additional element that he has to take care of is the shipping cost or the transport cost. And it would be as easier for any manufacturer that is based in Portugal to sell his product in rest of the European Union. Now there is one thing that needs to be understood. Where there is trade, the probability of war falls down. When the financial stakes are not involved, it's very easy for the countries to say, "Maine nahi khelna," right? We'll bomb you, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. I would like to particularly highlight the example of European Union. Almost 30 million. How many? 30 million individuals died in Europe in First and Second World War. It's not 3,000, 30,000 or 300,000 or 30 lakh. Okay, I'm giving you a conservative figure. Even if we buy that figure, or even if it is 30 million, here, can you imagine with such bloodshed in the past, how those countries are living together now? Trade. They realized that, yeah, they had the option of keeping huge armies and huge arsenals through which they could scare each other, or at least try to scare each other, but they opted not to do it. Rather, they realized that let's focus on the betterment of our commoners. And what they did a pact among themselves that no one is going to fight among themselves for a certain period of time. And they came up with this NATO thing, in which every country is contributing and it is responsible for the safety and security of all the countries. Right? So with these mechanisms and low trade barriers, the quality of life the people enjoy there is much better than those countries where there are huge trade barriers. And again, let me reiterate that wherever there will be financial stakes, the probability of war or escalation would be low. We are dependent on our parents for pocket money and fee. How many times have we escalated against them? Ever thought of it? No.
Thought of it a lot.
But you couldn't do it. You couldn't execute it, isn't it? Reason? Financial consideration. Mutual financial consideration. Okay, ji. Another opportunity could be acquisition of rival firms or companies with attractive technological expertise or capabilities or market share. So if there is a firm that is already dealing in the same industry as you are, rather than competing it, you simply acquire it. For instance, Daraz, Careem and Uber, good. Daraz being taken over by Alibaba or AliExpress from China. So rather than competing against them, they offered them a good value and took over. And there's a huge possibility of this happening in biosciences. Ji.
Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram.
There you go. Facebook and WhatsApp. Brilliant. Jazz and Warid. Good. You guys are already running in businesses here. So, serving additional customer, but it's not bezati here. Come on, don't make it a serious matter. ये हम ही समझ सकते हैं. It's serving additional customer groups or market segments, right? Here you can again take example of Careem. It added which segments later? Rickshaw, bike service, right? The people who couldn't afford their premium services or Go service or Go Mini, they came up with the provision of bike now, which is a great convenience, to be honest. But that was the service that was being taken care of by Bike here, wasn't it? Kareem has got a very clear advantage. Ji. Everybody knows it. Everybody has got that app on their phone. And the best part is having the app on the customer's phone. And nobody is going to add another app just for this particular service that is already being taken care of by a giant with which you're already dealing. We discussed this 5 minutes ago. I told you dreaming is injurious. Expanding into geographical new markets, you could, for instance, if you're currently dealing in twin cities, you can expand to the other cities including Lahore, or you could go southwards, further down, Multan, or throughout the country. Okay? Expanding the company product lines to meet a broader range of customer needs. Ismeji, let's discuss your favorite example. Khadi, of course. So, Khadi traditionally doing supposedly good. Why do you go to Khadi, by the way?
Sir, economical opportunity best prints होते हैं.
Best prints, do you like the designs?
Yes, I like.
How about the quality of cloth?
Yes, sir.
Is it durable?
Yes, sir.
As compared to,
As
Taimur has got some opinion. Ji, who has bought the Chapter 2 products from Khadi?
Sir,
Chapter 2 is a very specialized dressing designs that they are doing for the working ladies. And there you won't find these flowery prints, rather they do the checks. Or I was rather with my wife in that store. Their flagship store of Chapter 2 is in F6, and there came this traditional auntie who was looking for the print quality. So basically, Khadi realized that yes, there is a segment in the market that does not prefer to wear those flowery prints in the office, and they came up with these trousers and the shirts of the sort that are also somehow customized in our local ways as well, right? So the companies could be offering new product lines to broader range of customers' needs. Now, threats. If the intensity of the competition is increasing, so the more the competitors with this similar or the same market of size, the chunk or the slice for each company is going to get reduced. Unless the market itself is expanding, this would be a threat. This is the pie chart for the market. If this is the pie chart for the market, let's say there are 100 customers and there are 2 players, 2 companies. So let's assume that they've got 50 customers each. Now, unless this market is expanding, otherwise if 2 more players come, they are going to take this bit of the slice that these companies are enjoying. So the increase in competition is going to reduce your market share. And that is a threat, which could result in lower revenues and lower profitability. If there is a slowdown in market growth that we are currently witnessing, I'm sure if you are following news, everybody is telling us that overall the economy is slowing down, and when it's basically a snowball effect. So if everybody knows that economy is slowing down, everybody stops spending, or at least reduces the spending that they usually do. And when they reduce this spending, the revenues of the business people are going down, which means that the number of people they are employing, they won't be able to sustain them, leading to further unemployment. So it's a cycle that is very, very complexly interrelated to each other. If there is
ये जो 50-50 share है, how is Pepsi and Coca-Cola overcoming the intensity of competition?
I think there's clear status among Coca-Cola and Pepsi. For instance, in Pakistan, there are swings when there is a decade that is Pepsi is more popular, and then Coke fights back. But apart from the subcontinent, Pepsi is struggling everywhere. Coke itself is, Coca-Cola is the best or the major player in the global market. Yeah.
But there are other competitors.
There are, but the thing is that they are smaller. Now take this. Let's say if Coke and Pepsi are taking care of 500 customers, or Coke is taking care of 500 customers and Pepsi, let's say, is taking care of 600 customers. All right. Now even if Maca Cola comes, it is there. How many of the people are going to switch from Coke or Pepsi to Maca Cola? Yes, they will do on the Jummah in which it is advertised, but they're not going to continue it for long. So the size of the market and the impact the new entrant has, if the new entrant is pretty small,
So that's why, so those new competitors come out with a different flavor to overcome that.
it would depend upon how the market receives it. Let's take example of Gourmet rather. Ignore Maca Cola. What Gourmet did, Ji? Gourmet, they figured out that one of the major expenses, or rather costs, that are associated with Coke and Pepsi is their promotion. They do events for you, right? We had Coke Fest recently. We have got Coke Studio. I mean, they spend a lot on that. We have got promotions of Coke running every now and then in whatever program that you watch, particularly in summers. And how many times have you watched Gourmet's commercial? Yet it is one of the most popular, if not the most, one of the most popular drink in Punjab at least. That I can tell you for sure. Now what they have done is that they have actually reduced the price. And that difference is pretty considerable for price sensitive customers. So let's say if the Coke is being sold at, let's say, I'm just assuming 75 rupees, you're going to get Gourmet Cola for at least 65 or 62 rupees. So that, and the difference in taste is not that huge, right? So they are doing good. And with regards to your suggestion that yes, they can come up with new flavors, like Mountain Dew, Gourmet has already came up with 6 new flavors, 6 new, and 2 of them were extremely terrible. So the likely entry of a new potent competitor, growing bargaining power of the customers or the suppliers. We are going to discuss that in detail in Porter 5 Forces. If there's a shift in buyers' need and taste away from industry's products. How many of us are wearing wristwatches today? Raise your hands. Quite a number. Where is your wristwatch, by the way? Okay. Anyways, here earlier, almost everybody had to wear watch, wristwatch, right? Here I had this जेब में रखने वाली watch. It depends upon the taste that you have. ठीक है, let's not try giving sweeping statements and pretending that we know everything. All right. Here, what led to the diminishing returns or the diminished market share or decline of wristwatches? Cell phone, right? At times, your product may get substituted from an industry that is altogether irrelevant. We already discussed the example of BlackBerry. I mean, they considered themselves as a super macho of that market segment. Thanks to introduction of internet and WhatsApp, they were swept away and nowhere to be seen these days. So the shift in the taste of the customers, that can actually blow businesses away. If there are adverse demographic changes that threaten to curtail demand of the industry products. What are demographics?
Distribution of population.
That is one demographic. So If the demographic changes, that actually are the details of your target market, they are changing in a way that is adversely affecting your business, they would be considered as threats. If we were to establish a diaper factory, a diaper manufacturing facility, would Japan be a good option for that?
No, sir.
Why?
Low birth rate.
Low birth rate, right? Now their population is more like a mushroom, whereby 1, 2, 100, very slim at the lower ages, somehow moderate at the middle ages, and stronger in the older ages segment with regards to the population segments that they have. So establishing a factory to make Pampers for kids may not be the best idea to do in Japan. Rather, adult diapers could be a segment that could be targeted in Japan. Instead, we should establish this factory in, thank you very much, where there's a very clear demographic attraction that the birth control rate is nowhere under control. So you can expect to sell lots and lots and lots of diapers, thanks to the demographic changes. So if the demographic changes are favorable, they could be your opportunities. If they are unfavorable, they could be your threats. Vulnerability to unfavorable industry driving forces. There are industries that are declining altogether. Restrictive trade policies on part of foreign governments. India ne, now all the exporters of those tomatoes and other things that I think we were exporting piyaz there, onions. So they were exporting, India was exporting tomatoes and we were exporting onions. So with implementation of 200% duty, import duty on behalf of Indian government, if somebody is importing produce from Pakistan, they have to pay 200% extra duty, and that does not leave the business in a condition where it is feasible anymore. So restrictive trade policies on part of foreign governments could be your threat. And if there is a costly new government regulation. So these are the things that we need to look upon doing the external mapping. While generally people will be more than satisfied by merely doing the SWOT analysis, but for external mapping, there's another tool that I'm going to discuss as a bonus with you, and that is pestle analysis. That can give you a more true picture of the standing of your business and your industry. So there are basically 6 external market forces. We call it PESTLE, P-E-S-T-L-E or T-E-L. Political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal. Let us start by understanding political factors. Government types and stability. Can you please highlight few types of government? Democratic and dictatorships and monarchies. In Saudi, for instance, we neither have democracy or dictatorship, we rather have monarchy. Here are 3 types of government policies, government types. First being the democratic. Uske andar the best example, you may not like it, India and United States, right? Monarchy ke andar, we have got Saudi Arabia. Again, in these kind of setups, there are extensive and restrictive controls that the monarchs tend to implement. I can still recall when I went to UAE, the first thing after doing Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam, my host said was, "Here, make sure that you do not say anything against the emperor here, because you never know, your audience could be one of their intelligence guys. North Korea is another extreme example which has got a clear priority of saving the government it has, rather than having a focus on the betterment of their general population. Stability, Ji. Is stability important for businesses?
Yes, sir.
It is of utmost importance. Now, this is an interplay that we need to understand. Some of us may not consider monarchs as great rulers, yet the countries that have got greater stability, even with monarchs, tend to attract a lot of business. Tourism, apart from that, you can take example of UAE, for instance, Dubai. They've got a very stable government, although being run by a monarch, and yet everybody is more than happy to do investments in Dubai. And despite the fact that we are supposed the democracy, and yet we struggle to attract the foreign investors. Why is that? Stability. You are never sure that what is going to be the outcome. Every new person tries to instill a new sense of nationalism, or tries to implement his own agendas. And when the rules are not being followed and the people, or rather individuals, become more powerful, the businessmen are wary of such situations. That yes, today they may be suitable for the businessmen, tomorrow if they are not, all of their investments are at stake and they can lose their investment. Freedom of press, rule of law, and levels of bureaucracy and corruption. Freedom of press is again something that varies from country to country. There are countries where even you have got Hyde Park, where you can talk anything at a certain point. If you want to deliver any sermon against anyone, yes, you are more than welcome. Nobody is going to stop you. If you do not like your neighbor, you can go and yell out there as loud as you wish. But such freedoms are not available everywhere. I mean, in the case of Pakistan, do you think we have got free press? No. We used to have this delusion that yes, we have got the free press. It more sounds like an agenda-based press, whereby they tend to give us certain lines of thought in which, unfortunately, a commoner tends to fall in line. Rule of law, ji. Now there are countries, again, irrespective of what types of government they have, some countries depict or demonstrate a high level of rule of law. Example, United States of America. I mean, irrespective of who gets caught there, once he is in the court, he has to face the same law, right? And in some countries, I mean, I need not explain that what happens otherwise. I guess we tend to witness that every single day. Levels of bureaucracy and corruption. Now, I hope you're all aware of the hierarchy concept, right? So the more bureaucracy you have, the slower the process of the work would be, because the same file has to move from many disks, right? And if the corruption is somehow acceptable, it becomes even more slower. Regulation and deregulation trends. Now, regulation would be a scenario whereby the government is trying to enhance its control over any industry. And deregulation would be a strategy whereby the government is setting that industry free to attract more and more investment.
What is regulation?
When you are trying to fix the things or enhancing your control, a more firmer grip on the affairs. Social and employment legislation, a very important factor. I have this video if you guys are interested. It actually relates to the various sweatshop factories that are operating in Indonesia, which manufacture products for the big brands of the world, Gap and Nike, right? And why do these companies go to Indonesia or come to Pakistan? apart from the cost advantages, the kind of labor that can be taken here, it's almost even impossible to think of that in the developed countries, because the labor there can go to courts and fight for their rights. And here, deliberately, the legislation is not made up to the mark so that there are loopholes and these multinationals can take advantage of. And in this thing, even the government somehow tends to facilitate them. Because if they come up with stricter laws, it would be impossible for the businesses to exploit the labor. Then you have got tax policy and trade and tariff controls. We have already discussed that. More taxes you have, the lower profitability you will have to bear with at the end of the day. It's for that reason, usually whatever kind of budgets the governments come up with, they love to call it tax-free budget, and yet it is full of taxes all the time. Environmental and consumer protection legislation. Self-explanatory. What would be environmental legislation, Ji? It would be the legislation that makes it mandatory for the businesses to implement the environmental friendly initiatives that are required in that particular industry, right? Otherwise, not everybody is going to volunteer for that. And those who tend to volunteer, they end up being at disadvantage because they increase their cost of production by installing new plants, by operating them, by adding more labor. And yet their competition is not doing it and taking advantage of the lower cost.
Right, आपका मतलब है कि अगर जहाँ environmental protection rule है तो वहाँ कम हम करेंगे business में.
The legislation for the environment is weak, and yet you'll have individuals who are very ethical, who wish to take care of the environment that they are operating in. And if someone volunteers and adds a couple of water treatment plants, for instance, it would cost them. They're not going to come free, isn't it? Those plants are to be manned with labor. So that is going to be an additional cost on that business. And yet its competitors are not having this cost on their plate. So for them, it's going to become costly to produce products as compared to their competition. Then, likely changes in political environment. Best example, Pakistan. You are never sure that how long the current government, any current government is going to last. There is always a level of uncertainty attached. And one tweet from one particular individual and the things shatter away. Economics में जी, the stage of business cycle. I'm sure you have gone through the product life cycle, haven't you? Did you come across that? Right, introduction stage, then growth, maturity and decline. Same cycles are experienced by industries as well as businesses. Right? So if you are investing in an industry that is at a growth stage, it may be much more feasible as compared to investing in an industry that is almost about to enter its decline stage. So the economic life cycle of your industry is important. You need to understand that where do you stand. Current and projected economic growth, inflation and interest rate. So if the projected economic growth outlook is bright, that would be an economy worth investing in. And unfortunately these days, these figures for Pakistan are not coming as very attractive. Inflation, that being the rise in the prices, the more inflation, the less residual income an average worker is, or an average person or average household or family is going to left with, and the less disposable income they have, less saving they will have, and less spending they're going to do. That ultimately would lead to shrinkage of overall economic activity. Interest rates, They are usually determined by the State Bank of Pakistan, which actually sets the prime rate, or the very base rate on which the commercial banks, that being MCB for instance, or Al Falah or National Bank, they add their premium on that particular interest rate. So if the state banks makes the base rate or the prime rate as, let's say, 8%, if it raises the prime rate from, let's say, 4 to 8%, then the borrowing cost would increase a lot. And ultimately, the businessmen will struggle to get money for their business. And it would again shrink the businesses. And other way around, if the government wishes to expand businesses or increase economic activity, it usually focuses on reducing the interest rate. Japan being the best example, the interest rates there are pretty low as compared to other countries. Unemployment and supply of labor. The high unemployment would mean what? You've got plenty of people to choose with or choose from. But there is a challenge. Although the supply of labor may be excessive, the question is that how technically sound they are. Right? It's not just about the numbers. It is about the skills that human resource pool possesses. It's their abilities that their human resource possesses. Unfortunate in Pakistan, and I still wonder why is it happening so, that we tend to focus on this routine, metric, FSC, BSc and MS and PhD now, instead of focusing on the vocational skills like carpentry or electrician, very basic skills, car mechanic. Although if you go out to find any able vocational person, you'll literally struggle to find one. And once they come to your home, they will charge you the price they like. And yet, we end up making every kid metric, A-levels, O-level, and ultimately bringing him again to a point that even after their master degrees, they're still soul searching at what to do now.
पाकिस्तान में इस चीज़ का ट्रेंड नहीं है ना, बाहर जो यूरोप है वहाँ पे बच्चा मैट्रिक के बाद इंडिपेंडेंट हो जाता है, वो खुद कमाता है, वो साथ पढ़ता भी है, जहाँ भी बच्चा पढ़ रहा है वो समझता है या माँ बाप भी समझते हैं हमारी.
That's our culture. But let's not get impressed by Europe only. How about Malaysia? What do you think that what led to the investments there? It was not just कि उनकी policies अच्छी थी. They had the human resources that would work in the factories. I mean, to operate an automated computer assembly plant, not everybody can do it. You need to have minimum qualifications and some specific skills. Even if you have got hundreds of thousands of unemployed people and they're not skillful, I mean, they're not worth much, unfortunately. And that's where we are actually lacking the most. The person with vocational skill, he will not be unemployed, even if he is, but for a very short period of time. 10, labor costs. The countries with high labor costs may not be that attractive to do business as compared to the ones with lower labor costs. Why is it that China has been manufacturing, or has rather become a manufacturing unit for all the developed countries? Because the cost of the labor is much cheaper, about a fraction rather.
Now it's increasing. So
It's increasing, and it's for that reason.
people are moving towards Bangladesh.
People are moving to Bangladesh, and Chinese are now investing hugely in Africa. And they want to do their production in Africa, where the labor is much cheaper than Bangladesh even. Level of disposable income and income distribution. It's not about how huge the economy is. It is also about that what is the spread of that wealth. If, let's say, 70% of the wealth is being held by 1 or 2%, it means that the middle class is very slim. And the economies, they actually excel on the basis of middle class. So the more disposable income available with the middle class, the more they will eat pizzas, the more they will eat KFC, the more they will buy clothes, and the more business activity would be generally raised. And then impact of globalization. And that is something that depends a lot on the kind of control that the government is retaining. The countries that are more open to globalization, or that are more open to the world trade, free trade, they are more vulnerable to international competitors because of low barriers of entry. Then, likely impact of technological or other changes on economy. Unfortunately, wherever the technology is being introduced, it is basically overall getting the people unemployed. Because of technology, a smaller number of individuals are able to do the same work in much more efficient and effective way. And likely changes, it reminds me of Lalu Prasad Yadav.
Lalu Prasad Sharma.
Sharma? Yadav, yeah. You're mixing two guys, I guess. Lalu Prasad was the chief minister of their Bihar state, and he actually resisted introduction of computers in the public sector. And his argument was that first I'm investing a lot in buying these computers, and ultimately it is making my employees unemployed. What good it is for? Likely changes in economic environment. Social aspects जी. Cultural aspects क्या है जी आपके? Health consciousness. Are we a health conscious nation? Not at all. Absolutely not. Population growth rate, alhamdulillah. Age distribution, we have got a large number of youth, which are, I don't know how they are going to be catered. Imagine the current level of resources that Pakistan possesses, and we are struggling with water supplies, with power supplies. And after 10 years, when there will be a lot more individuals to take their share from the available pool, imagine the plight that would be happening now. Organizational cultures. Need I explain the Sarkari culture to you? I guess in bits and pieces we have already discussed it. Attitude to work. How do you define our general attitude towards work? Lazy? I was reading an article the other day about Sweden. And they were saying that the culture, working culture, that is so open that the hierarchies, yes, they are existing in documents and in practice as well, yet everybody is able to criticize anyone else in the office. If they do not like the ideas being postulated by or put forward by the manager, they can easily criticize it or reject it with all their arguments. And this is something probably that is very rare to be seen in our cultural settings, out of respect or out of whatever. But the culture and the work standards and everything varies from country to country. Then the earning capacity, living standards. In twin cities, the living standards or in the bigger cities are much better as compared to the rural area. Ethical issues, how seriously people take ethical issues. Do we take these things seriously?
No, sir.
Unfortunately. Diversity, we already discussed this concept. Although being little diverse, but we are not that diverse. We tend to follow certain paradigm overall. Immigration, the number of people who are leaving your country to others, and emigration would be the people who are coming from other countries to your country. In case of I we have got lots of Pakistanis aspiring to go outside, and in case of E, we have got lots of Chinese these days who are wishing to move to Pakistan.
अभी मैं पिछले दिन रिपोर्ट पढ़ा था 2009 से 2019 के दरमियान 600 से तकरीबन 650 लोगों ने पाकिस्तान की नेशनलिटी के लिए एप्लीकेशन दी है, जिसमें से 400 समथिंग इंडियंस थे। इसके ऊपर
Okay. Even on Tribune, was it a blog or was it a news? They are two different things. Usually because people tend to blog on e-Tribune site, we tend to take them as very solid opinions. Okay. Ethnic and religious factors, very seriously available and thoroughly available in Pakistan. Particularly the religious factor. This is something that is taken very, very seriously by a majority chunk of the population. And we have seen few demonstrations thanks to, you are responsible for mentioning him, not me. Alright G, media views, if it is liberal or if it is restrictive or if it is pro the products that you are about to sell or if it is against the products that you're going to sell. The law changes that are affecting social factors, the trends, advertisements and the kind of publicity that is allowed. Again, in social aspect, we tend to have a look on various demographics as well, that being the age, gender, race, family size, etc. Technological G. What is the status of research funding in the country? How strong is the technology legislation? And how many new discoveries are being made in that particular economy where you are about to start your business? Information technology का extent क्या है? IT, right? The more IT is available, the more easier it is for people to go for commerce and trade, right? Internet, global and local communication facilities. Then it's not just having the technology, it's also about the having access to the technology. So the spread of the technology is an important factor. Licensing, patent and potential innovation, replacement technology or solutions that are being introduced in the economy. The level of transportation or the quality of transportation, energy uses, sources, fuels, waste removal and recycling rather, are considered in the technological dimension. In legal aspects, what is the current home market legislation, future legislation? International legislation, how does international legislation affect us? If any country wishes to become part of ILO, that is International Labour Organization, in order to become member, it has first to adhere to certain level of legislation that is generally applicable to all of the member states. And it also signs up to the possible future legislation. They give the direction that yes, these standards may not be implemented right away, but in future you have to pave way for their introduction and implementation. So international legislation can be very powerful. Regulatory bodies and processes. Do we have any regulatory bodies in Pakistan? What is OGRA? Oil and Gas Regulatory Authority, that takes care of the demand and supply and accordingly also suggests to the government कि क्या prices रखनी है fuel की. PAMRA is another, PTA is yet another legislator. Now we did not used to have the strong these regulatory bodies, but during the past couple of decades the focus has been on development of these regulatory authorities, and with every passing day their capacity is improving. In environmental regulations, some countries will not tolerate damages to their environment. On the other hand, there are regimes that are tolerant thanks to Donald Trump. I'm sure you will be following the news where he is encouraging the usage of coal-based power production instead of going for solar or the wind energy. So the legislation can change as per the focus of the government. Consumer protection, ji. Now this is again a very important dimension. Pakistan has moved strides in consumer protection. Do you know that we have got a consumer court here in Pakistan? What is its role? Any idea? No? Here, whenever we buy anything, right, if we keep the receipt and let's say if the supplier of that particular product or service has not treated you satisfactorily, or the product has turned out to be damaged or not up to the mark, and he is refusing to return it, you can go to the consumer court with all the evidence, and they will summon the other party, that being the supplier or the shopkeeper, and they will listen to the views of both the parties, and if you are right, they're going to give verdict in your favor. I've heard few cases whereby, for instance, in one case this person had actually got furniture made for his daughter, and it turned out to be crap. So with all the evidence that he had, he went to the consumer court, and the consumer court made that supplier of the products pay him all the amount to that father. Right? So they are playing very important role. But due to non-awareness of consumer courts, unfortunately, the potential of these courts is not being exploited. The stronger consumer protection means that the options for the organizations are limited. For instance, we buy Corolla or other cars, Meyran for instance, and they are still coming without airbags, right? So it would be the consumer courts or the legislation that would make sure or make it mandatory for all the car manufacturers in the country that you cannot sell a car without airbag. So once this becomes part of legislation, there is no choice left with the manufacturers of the cars. Or there could be industry-specific regulations or competitive regulations. For instance, industry-specific regulations may, when was the last time when you saw a tobacco advertisement on the TV? I bet you have not. Before telecom sector, it used to be Wills King's Place Number 6 gold leaf advertisement all over the cricket matches and other dramas. But ever since that legislation came into practice, all the business was taken by the telecom sector, which was being introduced, Ufone and Mobilink and all, right? And there could be competitive regulation, which means that these regulations would discourage the development of oligopolies or monopolies in particular business. And then your environmental regulation, that how is the people's perception and reaction to environmental issues that can affect the business. Are we pro-environment in Pakistan? There is an increasing level of awareness at least, but unfortunately it is still not up to the mark. And that would conclude today's talk. In coming class, we'll discuss the key success factors. Thank you so very much.